right, Intermediate Algebra 1 students, this presentation is going to be on factoring trinomials when you don't have a 1 in front of the leading term. So in other words, an 8y squared instead of just y squared. Because we covered in class how to do those trinomials when that was just a 1. So the first thing is a quadratic expression like this, an expression that starts with the highest degree term being a 2. We think of it as this. We think of it as ax squared plus bx plus c in standard form. Okay, so the number that's in front of the x squared is, we call that a. The middle number is called b, and the constant term on the end is called c. So whether you use the box method or the AC method, or some people use like an X method of factoring. If you're an Austin student, you probably use that. They're all basically the same concept, just with different terminology and different visuals. But basically what always happens is you multiply the a times the c, okay? So whatever the first number is times the last number. And then we start kind of doing something similar to what we did before. So I multiply this, and we call that a times c, 8 times negative 25, and then we do this. We go, okay, what multiplies together to give me negative 200? And adds together to give me that middle term of 10. Okay, so instead of just the last number and the middle number, now we take the first and last times each other. 8 times negative 225 is negative 200. And now we want the sum of the two numbers to be the middle number 10. So if you think about that for just a second, you should come up with 20 and negative 10. Okay, 20 times negative 10 is negative 200. 20 plus negative 10 is positive 10. So those are the two numbers, but it's not quite as simple as before. We can't just plug them in and be done. So first I'm going to show the box method, which is create a box. And what we're going to be trying to do here is factoring this into binomials. So like I did with the box method multiplying, since they're both binomials, they both have two terms, so I make a 2 by 2 box. All right? And then what I do is I put the first term, the whole term, into the first box, up in the upper left. That one goes there. And the last term goes down in the lower right, so minus 25. Now, the two numbers that I just figured out when I did this over here, I put those into the two boxes, but those are going to be my y terms. So for example, I've got 20 and negative 10 y. And I choose a box to put those in. It really doesn't matter. I can choose either way. So I'm going to go 20y here and negative 10y here. And now what I do is, for each row and column, I put on the greatest common factor of just that row or that column. So for example, here's the first column, 8y squared and negative 10y. The greatest common factor of those two would be 2y. So I put that above the column. In the second column, 20y and negative 25, the greatest common factor of that would be 5. Just the number 5, because I couldn't get y out of both of them, so just 5. And do the same thing with the row, 8y squared and 20y. So I can take a 4 out of each one, and I can take a y, so 4y. And then the bottom, I can take out a 5 and no y. I can't take out the y because there's no y in the second one. I can take out the 5, but if the first term in that row or column is negative, take out the negative 2. So I've got negative 5 down there. Then the way that trinomial factors is by just putting these back together into binomials. So 2y and 5 are both positive, so we write it as 2y plus 5. In this case, the 4y is positive, so I have 4y, but the 5 is negative, so we write it as minus 5. And if you FOIL this back out, you'll get what you ended up with. So this is the correctly factored way to do that. All right, another example of the box method, number 10. 18x squared minus 17x minus 1. All right, so again, we start out by going a times c. Oops. All right, and so we get blank times blank equals negative 18, because 18 times negative 1 is negative 18. But we want them to add to negative 7. So we think about that a little bit. Let's see, 18 is 6 and 3, 18 is 2 and 9, and there it is. So what we're really looking for is two numbers that multiply to 18, negative 18. Well, look, you know, without even thinking about the signs, you can go that multiply to 18 and add or subtract to 7. So you think 9 and 2, and then it's just getting the signs right. So we need the 9 to be negative because we need that one to have a bigger value. So negative 9 times 2 is negative 18, and negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. So those are the two correct numbers. So now I draw the box, 2 by 2 box, and I go first term in the upper left box, last term in the lower right box. And then I break up my x, my negative 7x, into those two. So negative 9x and positive 2x. Right? And then row and column, greatest common factor again. Column 1 would be 2x. Column 2, notice that they're both negative, so we're going to say minus 1. Can't get anything else out of those two, so we just say it's 1. 18x squared and negative 9x. Let's see, since the first one is positive, we'll take a positive 9x. And 2x minus 1, again, there's no common factor there, so it's just positive 1. And so the way this factors is, now just pull them off. 2x minus 1 and 9x plus 1. You can double check that, FOIL it out, and it should be the same as what it started with. One more example of that, and we'll move on to another thing. Oh, one thing I want to show on number 12 is just if the polynomial is not in descending order already, you should put it that way. So if you have a 6x squared, put that out front, then minus 35x minus 5, and now you can do that one the way we have been. All right, but I'm going to do number 12 because there's something else about number 12, or number 11. So there's something additional about number 11. So this one is in the right order. It's x squared, x, and no x. But before I do this one, it's going to be helpful to take out the greatest common factor. And I don't like the x squared to be negative value, so a negative in front of it. So I want to take out a negative 2 out of each thing. And when I do that, I get 6x squared minus 11x minus 2 on the inside. So double check. I just factored out negative 2 out of all three of those. All right, now I do the AC, and I'm just going to leave that negative 2 out there and rewrite it all the way through. So this is my AC is 6 times negative 2, so I have blank times blank equals negative 12, because my AC value is negative 2, or negative 12. But they have to add to this thing in the middle, so negative 11. Right, so I need to think of those two numbers. Well, let's see, 12 is 1 and 12. That's probably it, right? Because 1 and 12 are two numbers that have a sum or difference of 11. So there it is right there. And it's going to be negative 12 and positive 1. All right, so again, the difference here is, let's go ahead and do the box, 2 by 2 box. The difference here is we've got to rewrite that minus 2 out the front at the end. But really what we're working with is the thing inside the parentheses there. So we go 6x squared, and minus 2 goes down to this box. And now I write these two x terms into one of those two boxes. So I'm going to go minus 12x here and plus 1x there. So just x. The 1 is just 1x, so I just write it as x. You can write 1x if you want, but usually we don't write the 1. All right. Greatest common factor of the first row is 6x. Greatest common factor of the second row is just 1. Greatest common factor of the first column is x. And greatest common factor of the second column, since they're both negative, the first one is negative, I'm going to take out the negative, and it's just 2, negative 2. And so it factors as, bring down the negative 2 from here, that's got to be rewritten. And then I have x minus 2 on the top, and I have 6x minus 1 there. If I multiply these back out, I should get the polynomial started. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of with the AC method, which is very similar. It's the same idea, but just a little different look in a separate video. right, so here is back to factoring trinomials. This time we're going to use something just called the AC method. Very similar to the box method, just visually looks a little different. But for this problem 13, again, first we have a greatest common factor. So I can take a 2 out of all of these, and I can take an x out. So we're going to do that first. 2x times 6x squared plus 19x plus 10. So when I factor out a 2x out of all those, that's what I'm left with. So now we need to do, factor that further if we can. So we start out by multiplying a times c again, like we did with the box method. And we go, this times this equals, so this time it's 6 times 10 is 60. And they have to add to the middle number, which is 19. Notice they're all positive, so that makes it a little easier. I don't have to worry about negative signs. So factors of 60, let's see, 1 and 60, they don't have a difference of 19, a sum or a difference of 19. 2 and 30, nope. But just keep going down the line. 3 and 20, no difference of 20, no difference or sum of 20 if you have 3 and 20. So the next one is one that you wouldn't normally think of, but 4 times 15 is 60. So just go 60 divided by 1. You can use your calculator for this and just go 60 divided by 1. And you go, oh, 60, well, that's too far apart. 2, 30, oh, that's too far apart. Keep going down the line and you get 4 times 15 is 60. And 4 plus 15 is 19. So those are the correct numbers to use. So now, instead of doing the box, here's what we do. Just break up this middle term of 19x. I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to just kind of put a circle around the 2x and say I need to bring this down, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I'm going to go break this 19x up into these two x terms. So plus 4x, they're both positive, so plus 4x and plus 15x. And then just rewrite the outer terms, the 10 and the 6x squared. Now instead of like doing a box with it, what we're doing is we're going to factor by grouping these two and these two together. So we'll take out of these two, we'll take out a 2x, and we're left with 3x plus 2. And out of these two, we'll take out a 5, and we're left with 3x plus 2. And we hope those two match, and they should, the way we're doing this with the AC method. So that 3x plus 2 matches, and we can pull that out as the greatest common factor. And on the left side, I'm left with a 2x, and on the right side, I'm left with a plus 5. And so there's how it factors. I just need to make sure I bring that 2x out front and rewrite it. All right, so one more of those, the AC method. Actually, we think we did this one up above, but it's just another way to do it. So multiply first number times the last number. That's AC. 8 times negative 25 is negative 200. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 200 and add to positive 10. And we already figured that out up above, but it's negative 20 and, sorry, not negative 20, positive 20 and negative 10. 20 and negative 10. All right? When I do that, I get the correct numbers. And so now, with the AC method, what we do is just break this middle one up. So we've got 8y squared, and we have plus 20y minus 10y. And then plus, just rewrite the minus 25. Okay, so what you do is just break that middle term up into these two terms for y values, 20 and negative 10. And then factor by grouping. Group those two together and these two. We can take out a 4y. We're left with 2y plus 5. So we hope to get a 2y plus 5 out of the other side. But notice they're both negative, so we're going to have to factor out a negative number. And that greatest common factor would be a 5. So if we factor out minus 5, we get 2y plus 5, which is what we wanted, because now they match. And so we factor out the 2y plus 5. And what's left is 4y minus 5. So just a little bit of summary from this and from one of the last couple of problems. First step should be factor out a greatest common factor, and then continue factoring from there. But when you do that, you don't consider that minus 2 anymore. You just write it at the end. And we just do our AC method or our box method on what's inside. Then on number 13, we had the same kind of thing. We had a 2x was a common factor, so we factored that out first. And then we just work with the polynomial that's left inside the parentheses. And we do the AC method, we break those two middle, or that middle x term up into these two, 4 and 15, and then we factor by grouping. So on number 14, we didn't have a greatest common factor to begin with. There isn't anything other than 1. So we just went ahead and started. And so when we get down here, we just have those two factors and we didn't have any greatest common factor multiplied in there. So hopefully these videos will help you. When we get back next week on Monday, we will do at least half the class of just an activity where we review this factoring, and then we'll do one new